Hello everybody, so today I'm going to show you how I made this image in Blender using of course Blender and Geoscatter and a lot of good stuff that I'm going to show you in this video. So let's get going. So first of all, I searched for some reference images, and first and foremost I look I search for general street, old street. I typed I don't remember correctly, but ancient alley or Italian street, something like that, and I came up with some results which I liked very much. And as you can see, this is a fairly narrow street with old buildings and a lot of vegetation and all this old stones and grunge looking environments, and that's what I aimed for. And after that I dive deeper into Italian houses, where I wanted to be looking for some more specific details of how exactly Italian houses look like. So as you can see here, those types of windows and all those ropes and cables hanging from the rooftops and from the buildings, and other elements of the street. For example, I wanted to know exactly how to model a window such this one, so I took that picture. And after that, obviously I wanted a very colorful scene with a lot of vegetation and trees and flowers and plants, so I dig a little deeper into that. I gathered some additional pictures showing some beautiful vegetation and many types of flowers. And at the beginning I even wanted to add some water to my scene, but I ended up with none because it wasn't fit in my opinion. But yeah, so after I had all this knowledge, I move on to Blender. So in Blender, first thing that I did is that I started blocking out my scene, which means I added some cubes, as you can see here, some very simple cubes, and I created these stairs, and I gave those stairs a bit of a curviness using a Bezier curve, and just to get a bigger picture of how I wanted it to look in general. So after that I created a camera. I set up the settings to be 1080 by 1920, and of course used a scale figure to figure out the general sizes of each and every element in my scene. And then I got a better understanding about how exactly I wanted it to look, and I understand better the height of the buildings and the width of the street. And then I moved on to the staircase to model it in better detail and sculpt it and texture it so that it will have more impact on the overall scene. So as for the stairs, I first of all duplicated it, put it in a new collection, called it hide, and for now I'm pressing H to hide it. in order to use it later for texturing and baking. And with the current tears, I subdivided it using subdivision surface, put it on simple and crank up the subdivisions levels. 1, 2, let's turn on wireframe mode and turn off optimal display to see better, and maybe one more. So yeah, and then let's apply the modifier, and after that I start sculpting. So in sculpt mode I chose some cool looking brushes for various kinds like cracks and tiles and stones. And then I adjust the strength and then just start sculpting and actually basically designing my stairs, at least the general look of the stairs. Once the sculpting stage was finished, I headed over to Substance Painter to texture my stairs. So inside Substance Painter I imported the high poly mesh and low poly mesh and baked all the relevant mesh such as normal, curvature, ambient occlusion, and so on and so forth. And then I did a little bit of texture work, not so complicated and not so deep, but I wanted to get a general look of something that was in my head, and this is how it looks. So as you can see, on the one hand, it is very detailed with all the normal details and all the sculpt details that I did over in Blender, but on the other hand, it is low poly. It's not a high poly mesh, so this is very good. It is not tasking on our computer, so when I get back to Blender, we can work with this mesh and Blender can handle it easily. So now back in Blender, I decided that I want to play around a little bit with light settings, because afterwards when I have all the plants and textures and all that kind of heavy stuff, it will be much difficult to play with light, because light demand a lot of trial and error, and with a very heavy scene, it is very tasking on our computer and Blender will definitely crash. So of course you can do it with regular sun or any HDRI that you can find on the web, but I like to use that paid add-on called Physical Starlight and Atmosphere. This is very robust add-on and it offers a bunch of different settings, and you can control the sun, you can control the overall atmosphere, stars, clouds, many things. But in this particular project I wanted very simple stuff, you know, just sun. I disabled stars because this is the day scene, and also clouds. I didn't want anything in the sky, I wanted clear sky, and I ended up with something like this. Oh, and of course under film, scene lights and scene world should be enabled. And yeah, of course under render settings, film, don't forget to disable transparent, otherwise you won't see any background. Your background will be transparent, so check this off. And I wanted something similar to this, clean sky without any noise, I mean without any clouds or stars or anything like it. And as for the sun, right now the sun hitting the left side of the image, which is good in my opinion, because the aisle, the stairs are going up and a little bit to the right. So I wanted the buildings that are located on the left hand side of the image to get more sun, and it is more complementing to the scene, I think. And again, of course, you can play around with this add-on or with any add-on that you choose. You can play around with the height of the sun. You can do night scene, you can do evening, whatever you want. Like if we do something like this and then play around with horizontal settings, let's see how that looks. So yeah, we can have very interesting render here. And one additional thing that I did that I regret doing is that I put a large volume cube around my whole scene to get some fog and stuff like that to the environment, but it is very unnecessary because this is very hard on your computer to render, and also you can achieve this kind of effect using the mist channel, which I explain later. So moving on to modeling the buildings, which were main part in this image. So in the process of modeling the building, there were some key elements that were very important to me during this project. One is to maintain a certain color palette that I gathered in my reference images, and the second one is to keep the building very random color-wise and texture-wise. I mean, mixing both stones and smooth surfaces, and both clean and grungy looking and dirty looking buildings, facades. Random things is very important in my opinion in almost every project, because in reality everything is not computer generated, everything is organic and chaotic and random. So I always looking for achieving that goal in my projects. And another thing that I wanted to focus my attention on is the openings, the windows and doors, because later on in the process I will add bunch of vegetation and flowers and trees and shrubs and grass to, I mean, a lot of places. And one goal that I wanted to achieve is that a lot of vegetation and trees and flowers and shrubs will burst out of certain windows and doors. Almost every opening will store some kind of flower or shrub or tree. So it was very important to me to locate those openings on my buildings according to the viewport. And I will get to this later, but right now you can see here some blank space because later I will talk about ready-made assets that I found online. So as for the building themselves, those are basically cubes, very simple ones. For example, that piece over here, this is very simple, very basic. I just added some loop cuts and then just extruded in some windows, and here also some more windows. They're not really fully extruded, I mean they're not really fully extruded to the end of the building, because there is no need for that, because from the viewport, from the camera view, you cannot see the end of the window, so this is not important. And another opening here, very basic stuff. And as for the texturing for the buildings, I use mainly in this project I used PBR material. I love using procedural textures, but in this particular project I preferred using PBR textures just because it was quicker for me working that way. I just went over to Quixel Megascans, chose some grunge looking, not only grunge but also stone and plaster and stucco textures, and then applied them onto my buildings. And afterwards I texture my building inside Blender using stencils, which brushes for the stencils I also downloaded from Quixel Megascans. And let me show you what I'm talking about. So for example, if I go over to Quixel Mixer here, you can see the last few textures that I downloaded. You can see here some stone texture for building with displacement, which I show you later, and some more simple stuff, painted plaster, another plaster texture, very simple stuff. And then I of course UV unwrapped my buildings, actually my cubes. Again, those are just simple cubes. So for example, that one I just select all, A and then U, and then Smart UV project, or maybe what works for you, maybe cube projection, what works for you in your particular project. And then I just started texturing this facade. So for example, if I head over to Quixel Mixer here, and then I click on over here brush, and then I go to, for example, brushes, and then under brushes we have leakage. So in here you have just a full variety to choose from, and I just downloaded some of those and apply them onto my buildings. Let's just quickly do one here. Let's just continue painting on this wall over here. So let's isolate this building and let's go into material preview mode. And then what I want to do is let's close that window and go to, let's go to texture paint, and again isolate that building, and let's keep this window over here, and then go over here to texture, because we want to control the texture of the brush. We want custom texture, so let's click on new, and let's click on this small button right here, or otherwise we can also choose that tab over here, and let's choose open, because we want to locate our downloaded brush. And actually we can click and drag from my other window in my other screen, and then I want to choose this black and white brush over here. And right now if I just press X so that I can switch the colors right here, pressing X. And one other thing that I want to do is go back to brush settings and choose let's choose stencil, and under stroke I want to choose let's stay with space, and let's go back to the brush settings here. And as you can see right now, we have the stencil over here, and if I right click on my mouse and drag, I can change the position of the stencil. Let's get a better view of our building. Let's say that I want on the roof to make some leakage on the roof. So I can locate my camera and then right click and drag over here. And I can also, if I press Ctrl and right click, I can rotate. And if I press Shift and right click, I can make it smaller or bigger. So I want something like this. And after I'm happy with my current position and size of the stencil, I can just drag and paint. But as you can see now, the problem is that my painting is like this, like the alpha doesn't work. There is no transparency to the brush. So what I need to do is go over to alpha settings over here, just over here, open up this alpha settings and click on calculate. Then when I paint, this is now looking good, but let me just pick more suitable color for this, some kind of nasty green, something maybe even brownish color. And now let's paint. Yeah, now it's looking much better. That is for texturing. Now after I finished texturing my buildings, I moved over to all the props and street elements and buildings elements in order to add some more depth and more layering to my image. I have here a bunch of props. Some of them I made myself, some of them I just kit bashed from the web, and mainly from, to be honest, again, Quixel Megascans. So for example, I have here these building parts over here that I just downloaded from and imported from Megascans. But on the other hand, I modeled some of the stuff, like for example this roof ornament kind of stuff I model, and this portion of the roof I also I built it, and that one as well. I created some first basic shape, and then I used array modifier to duplicate it along the y-axis, and then I just apply the modifier. I'm using the proportional editing. I just move the whole mesh up and down to get some randomization, duplicate it again, turn it 180 degree, and yeah, I got a roof over here. And I moved on to some other kit bashed elements of roofing, like that one over here, and I just duplicated it to create one long roof. And it's all about layering. I also kit bashed that part and that log of wood, and just duplicated it, array modifier again, and it all looked very good, very realistic, especially from far away. You just need to add a normal map, which comes instantly when you import from Quixel Megascans. And if I open up here the shader editor, you can see that this is a very simple, very basic material. Actually, we have the albedo map, roughness, and normal, nothing more, and almost to all my objects. So if I open up the props over here, so you can see all my props, and you can see here I got a bunch of gardening equipment and water pipe. So moving on, after my scene has its buildings, stair, all kinds of props, and I moved on placing the vegetation. And I knew from the start that I wanted a lot of flowers, mainly flowers, because I want variety of color. So I knew that I had to go and search for flowers and trees, and as well as shrubs and grass. Like I searched for many plants, pots, downloaded all of those, and let's go to material preview mode. And I wanted to place inside of them some vegetation, mainly flowers. So I took them to separate Blender file, and I just put in a lot of flowers and grass and all kinds of shrubs and vegetation, just so I get a better picture of the color scheme that I wanted, which is just a lot of colors basically. And the way I did it, like the way I scattered and the way I placed all the vegetation in my scene, is both by hand, like both manually and with geoscatter. Like as you can see here, if I open up geoscatter, so like for example, if we focus on that window over here, so here I created a plane, simple plane. Let's drag that all the way back. So this is a simple plane. So what we have here is some clutter of foliage basically. So we have let's turn that off, everything turned off, and let's start from the beginning. So we have grass, and then on top of it we have some lavender and some more bigger shrubs, and we have flowers and another kind of flower. I think it is a pink, some kind of pink flower. So this is what it looks like. And again, the principle of layers, like I don't have only one or two or maybe three things here. I have a bunch of stuff. I have white, purple, red, green, pink, a layering of color and variation. So another example here is also a plane. I created a plane, this time with a little bit of arc, just as the opening here of that portion of the building. So if I drag this back, so this time it's more of an automatic action. Like this is a biome. So what is a biome? So this, let's have a look. This plane is 43. So let's open up plane 43 right here. So as you can see, we don't have a lot of stuff here, because this is, I mean, everything is basically on that one, 19 cluster 0.001. Everything is located in here because this is a biome. So if I click on biome scatter and open biomes, I have here many kinds of biomes, and it just let's, for example, most of my assets that I use in my renders, mainly flowers, I use from Vegetation. They have just an amazing collection of flowers. And in this example, like you can see in the picture, We have here those pink and purple ones, and also yellow ones. So this is from that biome. So I used this biome here, and also I think that I used that one here. So I just click and boom, and just play around with a little bit with the setting here, like the rotation and variation and pattern and scale and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, more of a quick way to show variation in grass and flower and vegetation in general. So after everything is finished, it is time to move on to the rendering stage. So as far as render settings, as you can see, I am rendering here with for a change CPU, because my GPU just couldn't handle it. It is a very large scene with a lot of vegetation and lots of polygons, so just my GPU was crashing all the time, and I couldn't even get to render, you know, even lower samples and lower resolution. So I just had to use CPU. Noise threshold 0.02 with max samples of 2048. You can probably do lower than this, but I wasn't under any time pressure, so I just go with this number. Simplify. I always use simplify in order to get a smoother work in my viewport during my work. So max subdivision, the default is 6, but I lower it to 3. And very important, texture limit. So the default is no limit, which means if you have 4K or 8K texture resolution in your scene, when you test render, like when you put it on viewport shading mode, so the viewport will show you 8K or 4K texture resolution, which is very tasking on your PC, and it can crash your system, and most definitely it can crash Blender. So make sure, it depends of course on your computer and on your specs, but if you're like me, you know, I am 2070 GPU, and even for the CPU sometimes it's quite heavy. So make sure to lower it. In this particular project, which is again a very heavy scene, I lower it down to 512, and then of course render, keep it on the maximum amount. If you go down, way down to the color management, I usually do filmic. I know now in Blender 4.0 you got the new AGX color space, but I don't yet work with Blender 4 because of, you know, add-on compatibility and stuff like this. I just wait for it to be stable and then I will give it a try. But for now I'm using Blender 3.6.5. As for the output, I render this at 4K, and for the render channels, of course combined, and I additionally added a mist channel and direct volume channels, which I put on the screen right now so you can see those images. And then at the compositing tab, what I usually do is make a file output. So when Blender finish rendering, automatically it saves the file in the location that I want. And in this particular case, because I render some additional render channels, I needed some denoising in order to get those images also smooth. So usually at this stage I'm going to post-production in Photoshop But just before that, I wanted to show you some cool trick that I always love to use just before I go to Photoshop. So what I do, I like having full control over almost each and every object in my scene. So for example, if I want that vessel over here to be controlled later in Photoshop, and to be tweaked texture wise, or change the hue or saturation of the vessel, of this particular vessel. So what I do is I click on, let's turn on overlays, I click on the vessel, and let's go to flat, and then attribute. And right now I already did it, but let's just, for the sake of the tutorial, let's do it again. So I click on the object that I want, and then I go to vertex paint, and in vertex paint I select the color that I want to my object. Let's for example do blue. So I select blue, and then over here I choose paint mask, paint, and set vertex colors. And as you can see, you have a shortcut here, Shift K. So if I just press on Shift K, my objects turns blue. And then after I finished vertex coloring all my objects, I go to my render settings, and I choose as render engine not cycles but workbench. Workbench is like mainly for screenshots and stuff like this. So I choose this, and in the lighting tab I choose again flat, attribute, and then just hit render, and Blender renders this image. And then you can import it to Photoshop, and just using the wand tool or marquee tool, you can just select it and edit this particular object. So now in Photoshop, what I usually do is I of course import my raw render from Blender in here, and then I import on top of this my color ID render channel that I created using vertex colors. And on top of this, every other render channel that I have that I rendered in Blender, I also stack it up over here. So for example, let's hide this one, and let's show you the mist. So the mist channel right now is on 7% opacity, and also in blending mode is set on screen, so you can barely see it. But if I turn this off and on, I don't know if you can see this, but very subtle effect if I just crank it up to 100, so you can get a better understanding of what this channel is doing. So this is pretty cool. You can change the environment of your scene completely just by playing around with this slider over here. Like if you want sad scene with no sunlight, and very like almost winter, like something like this, so you can show it this way. If you want something more subtle but still heavy, so this is the look for you. But I chose 7%, and again this is turned on, this is turned off. So this is very subtle. And I have a last layer here is a dust. So again, I don't know if you can see this, but let's zoom in for a bit. So if I turn this off, you can see like many dust particles in the air. Just adds to the realistic aspect of the image. And what I'm doing, how I actually using this color channel over here is, what I do is I click on my raw render, and then using the I press W with my magic wand, and what I do is I just select some object, like let's say for example I want to start with my stairs. So what I do is you can do it in two ways. One way is you can turn off contiguous and then just click on the color, and every place that you have this color in your image, it will be highlighted. Like for example, we have this green, and we have here green, and here green, and here and there, and in the trees, and over here. So if while this is turned off, if I click on this, green like this, exactly like this, will be highlighted, which is very, very handy. So let's back to my stairs. So this is way number one to highlight stuff like this. Or what I love doing as well is choosing the wand tool and right click and then color range. Let's move this to the side, and now you choose the color. So if we're talking about the stairs, click on the stairs, and you got this preview here, and you can control how hard the selection will be. So this is too harsh, something like this. Press OK, and this test will be highlighted. And right now what I do, while this original layer is selected, like the raw render is selected, I just press right click and layer via copy, or you can just Control J, and right now we have cutout of the stairs. But now what you can do is go to, you can play around with adjustment layer, or what I like to do for better control is to go to filter, camera raw, or again I always like using hotkeys, so Control Shift A, and it gets you to the camera raw window. And here I like tweaking the texture slider, and maybe a little bit of exposure, and I don't know, maybe a temperature, something like this. And then here you can preview it. Let's see side by side, before and after. You can preview it to see the differences, and then press OK. And let's get back all of our layers, Alt and click without that one, and that is what it looks like. So I do it for each and every object in my scene. Then I use the dust and mist and all kind of tweaking and color correcting in my image that I want, and that's basically it. And yeah, this is the project, this is the final image. Thank you very much for watching, and I see you in the next video. Bye.